So in today's lecture, we will discuss about the organization of this DNA in chromosome. Now we all know that DNA, it carries the genetic information. It is the genetic material in most of the cells. Then how this DNA is packed inside a small organelle. In case with eukaryotic cell, it is the nucleus, while in case with prokaryotic cell, there is no such organelle. But how this tiny cell can acquaint, or they can house this long stretch of nucleotide within itself. So we are going to study this in today's lecture. So this particular presentation is adopted from Watson, Molecular Biology of the Gene by J.D. Watson. He is the same who has devised the double helix model. He has written a book. The book name goes Molecular Biology of the Gene. So what we are going to learn in today's lecture is about the chemistry and genetics, which we have already discussed. Then how this DNA is packed or has been associated with some protein, basic proteins, and what makes it to get fit inside that small organelles. So as stated, in prokaryotic cell there is no presence of nucleus, but in case with eukaryotic cell, if you look after, the size of genome is comparatively far more greater, and that too it is housed in a small organelle, that is a nucleus. So what makes that DNA to get compacted or packed into that small organelle? So there are some proteins which assist it in properly folding. Why there is need of proper folding and all, we will discuss in this lecture. So before learning that, we must be familiar with some other terminologies that will be required for our entire sessions, not only today's but here onwards, because in coming sessions we will be discussing upon the DNA replication, the transcription, translation, the genetic code and all. So few terminologies we will be discussing in our today's lecture. Now, maintenance of the genome, why there is a need to maintain that genome so as to propagate or so as to pass that information to the subsequent generation. Then with slight changes or slight modification can lead to variation, and the different diversity of organism can be synthesized. For that, this has to be maintained. So today we are going to discuss about this structure of DNA, RNA, and chromosome, chromatin, and nucleosome. In next lecture, we will be discussing upon replication, transcription, and translation. Now, chromosome, chromatin, and nucleosome. It may seem very similar terms, but they have different tasks to do, or we can distinguish them. After completing today's lecture, you will be able to distinguish what is a chromosome, what is chromatin, and what is a nucleosome. Now consider the structure of DNA within a cell and the biological relevance of this structure. DNA, we all know, is associated with some proteins. DNA, the charge on DNA, we know it is a negatively charged molecule, and this negatively charged molecule, it readily interacts with a basic protein, that is positively charged protein. That proteins and DNA, because of opposite charge, they are more tightly associated with one another, and they form a structure, a compact structure, which we further call it as a chromatin, which further gets complexed or further get condensed, associating with some other proteins, wrapping upon itself, and it forms a giant structure which we can call as a chromosome. So DNA is associated with proteins within a cell, both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, even in case with the viruses. There are some viruses which carries DNA as a genetic material. Few viruses, they carry RNA as a genetic material. Now each DNA and its associated proteins together, we call it as a chromosome. Chromo means color and zome means a body. So chromosome is what we can say, a pair of DNA and a conjugate of DNA and protein. Now this vocabulary we must be familiar with. What is nucleus? Nucleus is an organelle within a cell. Nucleolus, a small part of a nucleus where there is a chances of presence of active nucleic acid. Nucleoid, in case with prokaryotic cell, there is no presence of clear nucleus, but the DNA is restricted or it is present at a particular location where it is a dense. Then mitosis, meiosis, these are the type of division. In mitosis, the cells are divided into two daughter cells of same size and number. In case with meiosis, it is a reductional division. In that case, the haploid cells are formed. Then we must know what is an interphase. Interphase is the phase which alternates every M phase. M phase is, it can be mitotic or it can be meiotic division. So division phase is alternate by interphase, and from molecular biology point of view, this interphase is of very much importance to us. If you look after the cell biology point of view, your M phase, it is of more importance, but in case with molecular biology, it is the interphase, because within this interphase, lot of events are taking place. And most of the time of a typical human cell, for example, if it has 24 hours to grow, replicate and divide and form two cells after mitosis. So out of that, say 24 hours, around the 23 hours, it spans or it is occupied by interphase. This interphase, it comprises of at least three phases. One is G1, the other is S phase, which is followed by G2. So G1 as G2, which later on enters into an M phase. So when this particular process completes, we call it as a cell cycle. So cell cycle, it comprises of two phases, M phase and interphase. M phase can be mitotic division or meiotic division, while interphase, and within interphase there are several events taking place. That is the DNA replication, the proteins doubling and all. So most of the events, they are taking place in interphase, while in M phase there is only separation of chromosome and cytoplasmic content, and the cell is it is divided into two separate cells. If it was in case of mitosis, if it is in meiosis, there will be a reductional division, it will form 4 haploid cells. Then we must we'll be learning about histone proteins. These are the basic proteins, and these are the candidates who are associated with the DNA within a chromosome. So these histone proteins, there are diversity of histone proteins. So at least 5 different histone proteins we will be discussing today. That is H2A, H2B, H3, H4, which they are present. These 4 proteins, they are present in their duplicate, means they form an 8 protein. So we call it as an octamer. Along with that, there is one other histone protein called as an H1 protein. This is linking the linker DNA, and it connects the two histone molecules together. Or we can call that structure or the nucleosome model. It is also known by other name that is bead on a string like structure. Now when this histone and this nucleosome, they interact with, that is DNA, to interact with these basic proteins, it gets condensed, and further condensed, it forms a structure. The last structure we call it as a chromosome. So this chromosome, they are made up of strands of DNA associated with proteins. We know a chromosome can be made up of how many threads are there, that is how many copies of that is there, even that ploidy number we can say, how many sister chromatids are there, based upon that we can say. So chromatids, they are part of chromosome. So chromosome can be consist of a single chromatid, or it can be a pair of chromatids. Then euchromatin and heterochromatin. So chromatin, again, it is a site of chromosome where the DNA and protein, they are interacting. In that case, euchromatin means it is a region on chromosome which is genetically active. Genetically active in that sense means it can undergo transcription and further go translation. So it means here is the genes, the density of occurrence of gene or chances of appearance of gene is greater in case with the euchromatin region. While heterochromatin is the site which is tightly associated, that the DNA is tightly bound with the histone, and less likely they will enter in a transcription and translation. So we can say that is the transcriptionally, this heterochromatin region can be comparatively lesser active. Then centromere is the central part of the chromosome which connects the two arms of chromosomes together. So that is long arm, P arm, and Q arm, short arm, Q arm. Sorry, P arm is the short arm and Q arm is the long arm. Telomere. Telomere is the end part of the chromosome. At telomeric sites. We'll discuss this in while discussing about the DNA replication. In case with the circular genome, there is no such end. But in case with eukaryotic cell, most of the chromosome or most of the DNA, they are linear chromosomes. And there is an end replication problem, but that can be addressed, that can be solved in some cells, like in case with the your stem cells or cancerous cells or germ cells, by having telomeric enzyme or enzyme called as telomerase. Then we will discuss about this thing, that is repetitive DNA. So major part of the human genome is occupied by this repetitive DNA. Then the tandem gene cluster. Tandem means something opposite of random. Tandem means which is organized in an order, that is one after the other, the ascending order or descending order. So tandem means it is in properly organized way, one after the other. So we'll discuss this gene cluster, what is cluster and all, in coming slides. Now the importance of packaging of DNA into the chromosome, why there is need to pack this chromosome or this DNA inside a chromosome. Now chromosome is a compact form of the DNA that readily fits inside the cell. Now the reason to compact it or to reason to condense it is to protect the DNA from damage. We know the DNA, it is made up of 4 nucleotides joined together by phosphodiester bonds, and we know that this DNA, it has charged group in them, HOH groups, then it has phosphate group in it. So altogether it is a reactive molecule, and if left unsuch, if kept unsuch, untreated or left as such inside a cell, what will happen? N number of molecules are there. So we are feeding up with the different types of foods, we are exposed to different types of pollution and other components. The cell or the cellular components, they are constantly in contact with the other molecules. Within a cell, these molecules will interact with the DNA, and while doing so, it will alter its configuration, means it will alter its identity. And if there is a change in identity, that means if there is a change in DNA, it can lead to mutation. So to avoid that, to avoid the DNA damage, it is condensed, it is tightly packed, and is been housed in a particular organelle. Now the DNA in chromosome can be transmitted efficiently, that means to the daughter cells, by the process of cell division. So again, next for the chromosome, it confirms an overall organization to each molecule of DNA, which facilitates the gene expression as well as the recombination process. So for carrying out all these things easily, it's better that we must condense it, we must collect it at a particular site, at a particular location, so that all this process can take place very fastly and efficiently. So the proteins in chromosomes, which are the proteins? Half of the molecular mass of eukaryotic chromosome is protein. In eukaryotic cells, a given region of DNA with its associated protein is called as a chromatin. So that is what we have discussed. Euchromatin and heterochromatin, these are the regions of the chromosome. The majority of the associated proteins are small basic proteins called as histone proteins. So histones, they are the class or group of protein, basic proteins. Other proteins associated with the chromosomes are referred to as non-histone proteins. It is not so that the only histone protein will interact with the DNA. So while studying the replication, transcription, we will discuss all these things. Other proteins do interact with the DNA, but majority of them, for compactization, these proteins which are involved, they are histone proteins. So other proteins associated with the chromosomes are referred to as non-histone proteins, including numerous DNA binding proteins that regulate the transcription, which regulate the replication, repair, and recombination of DNA. Now nucleosome is a regular association of DNA with histone to form a structure, that is, which is effectively able to get compacted or condensed within a small organelle called as a nucleus. Now, what is the cost or what are the challenges of compactization of the DNA into the chromosome? Why there is need? First of all, why there is need? We have addressed this. So as to carry out all this process very fastly, so as to protect our genetic material, so as to help in transferring the genetic material from one cell to another cell while cell division and all. So for that, it's okay. But what is the cost of doing that? So we know within a cell to carry out every single step, there is a requirement of energy, and that energy that has to be provided through food and other components. So we know ATP is the energy currency. So that cost has to be spent over here for compactization of DNA. So if you are spending that cost, is there the ultimate or is there the demand of this particular thing? Whether it is necessary to compact the DNA? What if left unsuch? What will happen? How the challenge could be resolved? So that cost, how it can be utilized or how it can be synthesized? And what are the advantages of these challenges? Oh, okay, if we have done this, the cell has carried out, it has compacted. What will be the benefit for the cell to do this? So the reasons are quite obvious. We know that cell, it takes, say for example, a typical somatic cell, human cell. Suppose it takes 24 hours to replicate, grow and divide. And we know, as we have discussed in interphase, it spans around 23 hours of its cycle. So within 1 hour, it has to divide it. That means the mitotic event, that is prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, cytokinesis, all this it has to carry out only within 1 hour. So to speed up that process, what must be done? The DNA must be compacted or it must be tightly packed. For mutation, for replication, same thing goes. So for transcription also the same thing goes. Recombination, same thing goes. So that means if the content is condensed, it is protected. Secondly, it can be transferred very fastly from one cell to other cell. And the last and the most important thing is it can be protected from any changes, that is the mutation. So the chromosome, its sequence and diversity, chromosome duplication, segregation, nucleosome, and higher order of chromatin structure, all these things we will be discussing today. Now chromosomes, their shape, it can be circular or it can be linear. In case with the prokaryotic cell, wherein there is no well developed nuclear membrane is present, we call such cells as a prokaryotic cell. For example, most of the bacterial cells. These are enucleated, they don't have nucleus. So they are having circular genome with them. While most of the eukaryotic cell, they have linear chromosome in them. And that linear chromosome is placed within a structure called as a nucleus. So nucleus is an organelle within a eukaryotic cell where you find the DNA, the chromosome in the linear. Now the number, it varies according to the organisms. So it is an again characteristic feature of an organism. We human beings have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Likewise, the other organelles or other organisms have different sets of chromosomes. Then the copy number, it can be haploid, it can be diploid, it can be polyploid, depending upon again organisms. So we know the somatic cells or the most of the cells of our body, which they are diploid in nature. Whereas the germ cells, they are haploid in nature. Haploid cells, they take part in cell conjugations or they take part in your reproduction and all. So in that case, this so haploid cells, they interact with the other haploid cell and they form a diploid cell. So diploid means the presence of the same chromosome twice. So we call it as a diploid. If there is more number of copy of a chromosome, we call it as a polyploid. That can be triploid, it can be tetraploid, pentaploid, hexaploid, etc. So generally we find such ploidy situation in most of the plants and other organelles or other organisms. Next is the genome. Differences in the structure of eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells is a key to better understand the molecular process of genome maintenance, as well as the difference in this process between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So to comparison, here there are the two cells. So this is a prokaryotic cell which is very tiny, very small. We can see this is 1 micrometer in length, while this is an eukaryotic cell, at least a small cell which is at least 10 times larger than this. So you can see 10 micrometer in diameter. So this particular cell, if you compare with this, it's comparatively far more greater or larger in size. Plus, along with that, it has this eukaryotic cell has other organelles which are well developed, like this. We have nucleus, we have endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, etc. So in case with the prokaryotic cell, this DNA is freely suspended. We call it as a nucleoid, so which is not bounded by nuclear membrane. So such structure is a nucleoid. Here we can see in a bacteria, typical bacterial cell, this nucleus is freely, this genetic material is freely suspended within a cell. While in case with eukaryotic cell, it is present within a nuclear membrane. So this particular structure is the nucleus. And the number of chromosome, the copy of the chromosome can vary. Here it is having this blue, orange and green color. These are the 3 different chromosomes. And they are present only in one number. So we call it as an haploid cell. In this case, there are 2 orange, 2 green and 2 blue. Means there are 3 chromosomes present in duplicate. So we call it as a diploid cell. So this number of chromosome can vary. That is the haploidy, diploidy or ploidy. This ploidy number is again a characteristic feature of a cell under a given set of conditions. Now genome. What is the genome? Genome is the entire genetic content present within a cell. Genome is a comprehensive term. Genome means everything, the every genetic content or the nucleic acid present within a cell. While gene, it is a small segment of this DNA or small segment of the genome. So genome बहुत बड़ा है. It is like an ocean which has everything within it. While gene is a small droplet of that ocean. That is gene, a small segment of the genome which codes for functional product. So we'll discuss this terminology. What is genome? Genome is the entire DNA present within an organism. That can be coding, that can be non-coding, everything. That can be present within a nucleus or it can be extra chromosomal. That means apart from the nucleus, there can be presence of the nucleic acid, as in case with the mitochondria and chloroplast, they have their own genome. So genome means every genetic material that is present within a cell. A cell is considered as one unit and all the DNA or all the genetic material that is present in it is a genome. Now genome size is the length of the DNA associated with the haploid component of the chromosome. Now here do remember that we have 23 pairs of chromosome. Means we have 23 chromosome in haploid. So what is the genome size? So it is the genome size means chromosome number 1 to 23. If you take all together and take its size, that is the genome size. So haploid chromosome, the entire set of means entire chromosome, entire number of chromosome in haploid. If we take the length of that DNA, we call it as a genome size. Second is the gene number. Gene number means it is a frequency, the number of genes included within a genome. And what gene is? We have discussed that gene is a small segment of this genome. It is a small segment of the genome. So for example, in case with a human being, so out of 23 chromosome gene, suppose consider any gene of any chromosome. So that gene will be, it has a characteristic that if allowed, it can transcribe and translate so that a functional product can be synthesized. So gene is a small segment of genome which codes for functional product. Now, how many number of genes are there? Can be calculated by gene frequency or gene number. So gene number are the number of genes included within a genome. So obviously one thing is for sure, if we compare the two organisms, one is prokaryotic cell and another is eukaryotic cell. Suppose we are taking an hypothetical example. Suppose the prokaryotic cell has a genome of 4000 kilobase pair, and a typical eukaryotic cell has a genome of 4 lakh kilobase pair. And if you compare on an average, suppose, yeah, also be simple example, suppose the prokaryotic cell has a genome of say 10 say kb, और सिंपली बेस पेयर लेते हैं, 100 बेस पेयर लेते हैं, 100 बेस पेयर का एक प्रोकैरियोटिक सेल है. तो 100 बेस पेयर में से मान ले कि अंदर द प्रोकैरियोटिक सेल हैज 2 genes within it. That genes are of say 3 micrometer or 3 base pairs long or 5 base pair long. तो ऐसे 2 genes उसमें है. एंड यूकैरियोटिक सेल है जिसके 10 times बड़ा है, तो नंबर ऑफ genes कितने होंगे उसमें? So it is expected that it should increase in that proportion. So obviously or under normal condition, as the genome size increases, it is expected that the number of genes will also increase. It is like, suppose you have gone to library and you have collected a book, and that book is say 100 pages. That 100 pages, that book is divided into 10 chapters. Consider these genes as a chapter. Now you have taken another book which is of say 1000 pages, and the chapter is now of 10 pages. How many chapters will be there in that 1000-page book? 100 chapters at least. So this is how it has been understood, or it has been related. So gene number is the number of genes present within that genome. Third thing is the gene density, the average number of genes per MB. Hence, if you take a length of the genome, if you take a particular stretch of the genome, how many number of genes will be found in that particular stretch? So depending upon that, we can calculate the density. Means the chances of occurrence of gene in a particular stretch of base pair, that is MB. So here in this particular table or chart, we can see these are the organisms which are increasing in their genome size. So this second row, second column, it shows the genome size, which is measured in MB, that is millions of base pairs. So this genome size, it keeps on increasing from top to bottom. That means Mycoplasma genitalium is the smallest of the bacteria, which has 0.5 and 0.58 MB of the genome size, and it keeps on increasing in prokaryotic, it keeps on increasing in eukaryotic cell, and in case with the plants, it is, say for example, we will take this last tulip plant, it has 1,20,000 base pair MB of genome size. Since you compare this, which is less than 0, this is more than 12 lakh. Since it is comparatively far more greater in genome size. So genome size here, it is increasing. Approximate number of genes, obviously they will keep on increasing. Here there are say 500 genes. In that case, suppose in this case it is not known, but in that case it is 45,000. So where is 500 and where is 45,000? So there is far greater number of genes as it keeps on increasing in the genome size. But again, this particular two things have nothing to do with the gene density. Density means एक particular stretch में कितने genes आते हैं. So it can vary. So it is found that the smaller the genome, higher the gene density will be. Though the number of genes will be less, but as the length is smaller, the chances of getting more genes will be greater in that case. So gene density here, this arrow is upward headed. It proves that the gene density, it has nothing to do with the genome length. Gene density means we are stretching only a small segment of the genome and we are comparing it. While the number of genes, they keep on increasing with the genome size. Hope this is clear. Next, gene makes up only a small portion of the eukaryotic genome. So in case with eukaryotic, or say for example human beings, we will discuss. In case with human beings, only 1.8% or roughly we'll say 2% of the genome it actually codes for the protein. Yes, sir, you have heard it rightly. Only 2% of the genome it codes for the protein, while rest of the part is non-coding region. It is not so that it is not essential region. It is essential. Most of the part of the genome is occupied by repetitive sequence. Some of them are long repetitive, some of them are short repetitive, some of them are gene associated regions which may help in transcription and other things. But actually the gene coding for the protein, they are far very less, and they are only 1.8 or to maximum 2%. So genes make up a small portion of the eukaryotic genome. Increase in the gene size, as we have discussed here, increase in the gene size, increase in the gene size, increase in the sequence of regulatory sequence, and the presence of introns, it leads to all these things. So means the non-coding sequences, they make up the larger part of the genome, in human genome in particular, or eukaryotic cell in general. Increases in the DNA between genes and Genes means which is coding for the functional product. Intergenic means distance or the site which is present between the two genes. We call it as site as an intergenic site, or that sequence as an intergenic sequence. So increases in the DNA between the genes. The thing is, it can be unique region or it can be a repetitive region. Here we have discussed the same thing, that is the organisms. Their number of gene density here it is high. Average number of introns in case with prokaryotic cell are very less. Intron means non-coding region which is present between two genic region. So it is introns means which is intergenic region between the two genes. So in case with eukaryotic cell it is far more greater, while in case with prokaryotic cell they are very lesser. So percentage of repetitive DNA in case with prokaryotic cell it is far lesser, almost less than 1%, while in case with eukaryotic cell it can be anything. So here we can see it is a 46% in human beings. So here we can see this is the diagram which shows where we have compared different organisms. This is an E. coli bacteria, this is an E. Saccharomyces, this is an Drosophila megalogaster, and this is a fly, and this is in human beings. So this particular stretch of say 6,000 kilo base pair region has been flanked, or it has been taken over here for comparison. So here we can see in case with E. coli, most part of this length is occupied by this gene. This green color it indicates the presence of genes, and very lesser part of this is occupied by this intergenic, that is non-coding sequence. While in case with Saccharomyces cerevisiae, the green part is comparatively lesser than that of this, while this orange color, this is RNA polymerase gene, is comparatively longer, and the presence of intergenic region is comparatively greater here. As we keep on moving below, that is in Drosophila, we'll find this yellow strips over there, that is the repetitive sequence, which was very rarely seen in first two cases, and there is more presence of this intergenic region or this RNA polymerase binding gene, or this gene. So this gene is flanked over there, means it is cut down by or separated by this blue color spots. So these are introns or intergenic regions. Most part of this genome is occupied by, here we can see, by this introns and intergenic sequences. And the lastly, human cell or human gene of this much length, we will find most part of it is occupied by intergenic. Then this yellow part is of repetitive sequence. Then there is the presence of introns over here, and this gene which codes for RNA polymerase gene, which is very much flanked here. Small lines we can see, means it is separated, or it is broken down into small segments within a human gene. Now if you compare these four different organisms, we will see in this particular stretch of say 60,000 base pair, in case with human beings we will find only two genes. So this green color is the gene. So this one and this two, these are the only two genes. In case with the Drosophila, in the same stretch of 60,000 base pair, we will find 9 genes. In case with the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, the Baker's yeast, we find 31 genes in the same stretch, and in case with the Escherichia coli, E. coli, there are 57 genes in the same segment. So obviously the gene frequency in E. coli is far more greater than that of the human being. Hope it is clear. Now this particular diagram, it shows how the genome of human genome is, how it has been associated, or it is consisting of different repetitive part in it. So human genome is around 3.2 into 10⁹ base pair in length. Out of that, we can divide it into two halves. One is gene and gene related sequences. So genes which code for functional product, and gene related sequences means the region which assisted in replication or which assisted in transcription. So gene related sequences. So they make up around 1200 million base pairs, while almost double part of it is occupied by intergenic region. So this gen and gene associated region, further we can say it can be divided into two separate halves. One is genes which actually code for the product is 48 MB in size, while most of the part, almost 90% of this, is occupied by related sequences which do not directly code for the product. which do not directly go for transcription or directly produces the product proteins. What this region is, they are made up of introns, UTR means untranslated regions. They are transcribed but they are not translated. So we call them as an UTR. 3' UTR, 5' UTR, they are untranslated regions of the genome. Then gene fragments, so these genes can be flanked, and pseudogenes means these were the earlier they were present, they were functional genes, but because of some mutations or because of some random act of transposition and all, they have lost their function. They are pseudogenes. The next half of this genome, which is 2/3 of this genome, is occupied by intergenic DNA, which further can be divided into two halves. Most of the part of that is about 1/3 of that is occupied by, sorry, 2/3 of that is occupied by genome-wide repeats. These repeats are the sequence of nucleotide which are repeated over there. And other intergenic regions, which is 600 MB in size, this can be further divided into microsatellites and unique. Microsatellites means they are small repetitive units. Small, if you compare them with this particular repeats, they are very long repeats, and these are the small repeats. Microsatellite, why we call them as microsatellites? Because if you spin them, they form a separate layer in centrifugation. So it appears like a satellite. So as we have Earth and it has Moon as a satellite. So same way, if you compare the density of that molecule after centrifugation, it will form a very separate and thin line at the top of the density gradient centrifuge tube. While some part of that is occupied by unique region, which is small segments which are unique to a particular individual or a particular group of organisms. Next is the chromosome duplication and segregation. Now, critical things about the DNA elements, you must know that there must be an origin of replication, a site of the genome from where actually the two strands will start melting apart and the process of DNA replication will initiate the replication. So that site is called as, or that location is called as an origin of replication. Next term is the centromere. We know this, the central part of the central spherical part of the chromosome, which connect the two arms together. And the telomeres, these are the two arms, the end part of these arms, which are at the extreme of the chromosome. Now these elements are not involved in gene expression. So these three of them, they are important from your chromosome point of view, but it may not be directly involved in the process of gene synthesis, or they are not directly involved in the process of translation. Now we'll discuss here shortly about the DNA replication, origin of replication, the site at which the DNA replication machinery it assembles. Now DNA replication machinery means there are a number of proteins which are involved in that. So while discussing the replication, we will discuss them in detail. There are 8 to 10 different, at least 8 to 10 different proteins which are required over there, and they come there with a particular fashion or in a particular order. So in short, we call them as a replication machinery. So site at which the DNA replication machinery assembles so as to initiate the process of replication. It is required for replication. That region is about 30 to 40 kb in size, kilobase pair in size. Kilo means 1000 base pair in size, apart on each eukaryotic chromosome. So in case with eukaryotic cell, there are multiple origin of replications, or after say every 10,000 or 30 to 40,000 base pair apart, you find a chance of occurrence of these genes, this origin of replication. While in case with prokaryotic cell, there is only one origin of replication. For example, in case with your E. coli, the model organism, which is mostly studied for and many things. So in case with prokaryotic cell E. coli, that origin of replication is one. We call it as an ORIC site. Then centromere, required to connect the two, required for the correct segregation of the chromosomes after replication. It is the site where the kinetochore, that is the thread which is coming out from the polar bodies, it interacts and binds over there. So it directs the formation of kinetochore, an elaborate protein complex essential for chromatin segregation. One chromosome, one centromere is there. So there can be sister chromatid more than one, but they are connected by a common centromere. The size, it varies depending upon the chromosome, its length and all. It can be anything from 20 base pair to 40 kb. Composed of largely repetitive DNA sequence. So most part of the repetitive site we will find in chromosome, in the telomeric site and origin of replication. Now here we can see this kinetochore binding region. This is a small part. This is we can call as a centromere, where this kinetochore will come and bind. So this particular structure is your centromere, which connect the two arms of chromosomes together. These two sister chromatids are joined together. This is a nuclear membrane. This is the origin of replication. This is an eukaryotic cell, therefore it has 1, 2, 3, or every 10,000 kb it has a new origin of replication site. This blue color at the extreme end, they have been marked, they are the telomeric regions. During the process of replication, from each of this origin of replication, the replication will start and it will keep on increasing. The fork size will keep on increasing, the replication bubble will keep on increasing, and it will move in both the directions. So it forms, it will replicate the DNA, and here we can find the replicated copy of this DNA. So DNA replication has taken place. Then the DNA has been condensed as it advances to the M phase. This process, it takes place in the interphase. This process takes place in M phase. In M phase, these chromosomes, they are highly condensed. So prophase, metaphase. So this particular structure is of the metaphase, wherein these chromosomes are aligned at the center metaphasic plate, and now the kinetochore attaches to it. And after that, in anaphase, this one newly synthesized chromosome and this pair will get separated, and two daughter cells will be formed of same genetic content. So this is the mitotic type of division explained in this particular slide. Then cell cycle, eukaryotic site chromosome, its duplication and segregation occur in separate phases in cell cycle. So cell cycle is a round of cell division, that is your interphase followed by M phase. So mitotic cell division is the chromosome number is maintained during the entire process of cell division. That is identical cells are cells with the same number of chromosomes which they are starting, the same numbers will be formed in the daughter cell. So eukaryotic mitotic cell cycle, we will discuss this. This M phase, this is a small part of the cell cycle we can see. This after this violet color, this is a light green color component is shared. This particular phase is the G1 phase of interphase. So interphase, it starts from this. It comprises of G1S and G2 till this phase. So all this part is the interphase. So therefore, it is important from molecular biology point of view. What actually happens in G1 phase is, suppose this cell which is willing to divide, it enters to this cell cycle. So once it enters the cell cycle, it prepares it for the division. So before division, we know that cell must replicate. So the DNA, it has to be replicated, and it will replicate in S phase. So for S phase, the components that are required for replication, they are synthesized. So G1 is actually a preparatory phase which prepares the cell for the division, that is the DNA replication. Excuse me. It prepares the cell for the DNA replication. So machinery required for replication are synthesized over there. Here we can see this chromosomes, they are replicated, they are preparing to replicate, and then in S phase it is actually replicating, and after the S phase is completed, two copies of daughter cells are formed. The double amount of DNA has been formed over here. And once this process is completed, the DNA, the component are doubled in number, it enters into the division phase. So this division phase is the M phase. It can be mitotic type of division or it can be meiotic type of division. Now this chromosomes, how they are joined together, they are joined by some proteins called as cohesin and condensin. These are proteins which join the sister chromatids together, and during the process of division or cell cycle, another enzyme called as separase, which breaks this thread-like structure, and these chromosomes, they are pulled away from one another. This particularly, obviously, it is the start of anaphase. So from M phase, it keeps on moving to this anaphase, and this daughter cells are formed with same genetic content. Now chromosome, its structure changes as eukaryotic cell divides. So we have discussed all these things, and you are pretty familiar with this thing. In case with the M phase, the DNA is in condensed state and completely disentangled from each other. While in case with the G1, or that is interphase, which comprises of G1 as G2, it is in the diffuse state, it is significantly less compact, and the structure of chromosome it changes. That is, the DNA replication requires the nearly complete disassembly and reassembly of assembly of the proteins to associate and interact with the chromosome. So here we can see this within an interphase. This DNA, it is in the thread-like structure. It is not tightly packed. While as it moves from interphase to M phase, that is the division phase, it gets condensed. It gets condensation starts and it gets highly compacted and it forms this chromosome structure. And why this nuclear membrane is broken down? Because it is in division phase or in M type of division, mitotic type of division. The nuclear membrane also disintegrates. It is a sign of start of division. So these chromosomes, they are highly condensed and now they are easy to get separated into two daughter cells. If left as such and we try to separate them into two daughter cells, what will happen? We can imagine. It's like Maggi, we are separating it after boiling it and then we try to distribute into different bowls. So it is that hard. So better way, you take two bowls and you prepare of your own. Next is the gap phase of the cell cycle allows time to prepare for the next cell cycle while also checking the previous stages in finished or not. So there are several checkpoints within that cell cycle. So we'll discuss this also. Different levels of chromosome structure can be observed by different microscopes. Cell cycle checkpoints are not mentioned over here. Let me tell you. So there are different checkpoints like when the cell enters in this interphase, this G1 as this is one of the checkpoints. This at this particular moment, at this particular stage, there is a strict checkpoint which is called as an G1S checkpoint. This checkpoint, what it checks is whether this cell is prepared for DNA replication or not. Because DNA replication is one of the major or important event and unique event for this particular biomolecule. And if any error is taking place in that case, it can lead to severe change in the subsequent generation. That is, the new daughter cells will be mutated one. So therefore this check has to be done. What it checks is whether DNA is prepared for the replication, whether all the machinery required for replication are available. After replication is completed, at this particular point there is another checkpoint. What it checks is whether this DNA is completely replicated or not. DNA replication only takes place within S phase. It will never take place in M phase or it will never take place in G1 or G2 phase. So it has to check whether entire length of DNA has been replicated or not. Only if it is fulfilled, it will pass it to the G2. In G2, what it will check? It will check whether the cytoplasmic content is ready for the division or not, whether there is any error over there in synthesis of a protein, whether there are the proteins responsible for separation of these chromosomes, they are available or not. If everything is fulfilled, all right, then this G2M checkpoint is opened and this cell, it enters from interphase to M phase. In M phase, there are several different subphases like prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, cytokinesis. It keeps on going and the two daughter cells are formed of same size if it is a mitotic type of division. Hope this is clear. In case if you have any doubt, any question you can ask.